Chapter 1. I am Camila, and I want to confess my love to the person I care about. Late at night, unable to sleep, William turned on the radio, and to his surprise, the gentle, soothing voice of his wife, Camila, who suffered from selective mutism, filled the air. William had been married to Camila for 3 years. The first 2 years, they could still manage to communicate a few words, but in the past 3 months, even when they were face to face, Camila couldn't utter a single word. I haven't seen you for 3 years, and I'm really looking forward to meeting you tomorrow. I really miss the scent of you. The message coming from the radio was obviously not directed at William. I love you, Robert. Camila's voice had never been so full of emotion. The confession ended quickly, and then came the host's words of admiration and praise. But William, sitting on the bed, remained frozen in shock, unable to comprehend what he had just heard. He had been introduced to Camila through a family-arranged marriage. He fell in love with her at first sight, but Camila had always been distant and cold. Only when they first met did her mother explain it to him. William, please understand, Camila has selective mutism. William called her mother. William, why are you still awake so late? William felt a lump in his throat. The long silence made Camila's mother anxious. What's wrong? Did Camila upset you? Did you know that Robert is back? William froze. It turned out he was the only one who hadn't known. I'm sorry, William. 3 years ago, I didn't tell you the truth. Camila Lynn's selective mutism started when her ex-boyfriend, Robert, left. I had no choice but to force her into this arranged marriage. It's quite laughable, isn't it? The only daughter of the prestigious Lynn family in City A is actually mute. But William, you don't need to be scared. No matter what, I'll take care of her. William didn't even remember how he hung up the phone, nor how he spent that long, lonely night. At that time, William researched extensively on the condition, and among the causes, he found one that said, caused by major external trauma. William didn't understand. He tried to subtly ask many people in the Lynn family, but none of them could give him a clear answer. Later, he tried various methods: psychological counseling, electroshock therapy, food therapy, chakra healing. He even took Camila to a stand-up comedy show. While he laughed uncontrollably inside, Camila remained silent and cold, sitting motionless. It wasn't until the moment he proposed that she seemed to make a big decision and finally said one word, okay. At that moment, William was overjoyed, but now, the happiness felt distant. Yes, he couldn't cure Camila's selective mutism because he wasn't the one who could heal her. A bitter feeling rose in William's heart, and a sense of fear began to take root. Her medicine was back, but what about him? He clenched his hands tightly, and a stubborn determination rose within him. Since Camila didn't love him, he no longer needed to remain trapped in this marriage. She wouldn't divorce him. So what about him? With that resolution in mind, William tidied himself up. 3 years ago, he had given up the opportunity to study medicine abroad for Camila. Perhaps it wasn't too late now. An hour later, he left the house, intending to go to a nearby shopping mall to buy some new clothes for himself. Sir, the suit you tried on is the last one available. Would you like to purchase it? William nodded and took out his card, handing it to the salesperson. I'm sorry, but another gentleman is willing to pay more for this suit. Would you be willing to let it go? William followed the salesperson's gaze and saw a man in a dark blue suit, chatting happily with a woman beside him, who was wearing red high heels. He stood up and took 2 steps forward, only to make eye contact with the woman, Camila. Then this man must be Robert. Camila's face instantly turned serious. She opened her mouth but couldn't speak, her expression cold as she stared at William. She then tapped her phone with her right index finger. William knew this gesture all too well. It meant using the phone to communicate. Why are you here? Are you following me? Why do you care? 3 messages popped up in quick succession, and they made William feel utterly disappointed. Beside them, Robert tightened his grip on Camila's hand and asked with a smile, Camila, who's this? A friend. He then took her hand and placed it on his chest. Could you let him give the suit to me? You know, I just got back to the country, and I need some formal clothes. Camila gave a gentle smile, patted her phone, and without asking William, took out her card and handed it to the salesperson to pay. He's a friend. Those words struck William like a block of ice, sending shivers down his spine. He could barely stand. So his 3 years had only earned him the label of a friend from Camila. The lights in the store crackled, and William instinctively looked up. Suddenly, the ceiling light above him loosened. With a loud bang, he felt a sharp pain in his back. In that instant, William felt a warm wetness under him. Trembling, he touched it, and his hands were covered in blood. The whole store erupted into chaos, with screams and phone calls ringing in his ears. But when he looked up, all he saw was Camila kneeling beside Robert, tightly gripping his hand against her chest, frantically looking around. Call an ambulance. An ambulance. William had never seen Camila so frantic. Miss, I'm sorry, but could you allow this gentleman to get on the ambulance first for treatment? The next one is about to arrive. And this gentleman's injuries are more serious. The medical staff carefully moved the semi-conscious William onto a stretcher, but Camila, furious, stopped them with a firm hand. Save him. William then felt a force pushing him off the stretcher, and he fell hard onto the ground. The pain was enough to snap him back to full consciousness. He could only watch as Camila gently moved Robert onto the stretcher. Miss, it's just a sprained wrist. It's not serious. You're taking up medical resources for no reason. Robert's hand is very important. He's a doctor. William was stunned. This was the longest sentence Camila had said in nearly 2 years, but unfortunately, none of the words had anything to do with him. Once Camila finished speaking, she quickly pushed Robert toward the ambulance. William leaned against a nearby shelf, gasping for air, but with every breath, the pain in his back seemed to worsen, intensifying the agony. He didn't know which hurt more, the wound or his heart. Hadn't he given up his chance to become a doctor for Camila? How had Robert become more important? What did he mean to her? Suddenly, William mechanically tugged at the corner of his mouth. He was just a friend. And then, he passed out from the pain. Chapter 2. The first thing William did after waking up in the hospital was send Camila a message. We should get divorced. The moment he sent it, Camila pushed the door open and walked in. She was carrying 2 gift boxes, the same brand he had seen earlier that day. She placed them on the cabinet beside him and sat down directly in the chair next to his bed. Camila took out her phone. She must have seen his message, but there wasn't the slightest ripple on her face. The hospital room was suffocatingly silent, yet William's phone chimed. It was Camila. You like this brand? I picked out 2 shirts that would suit you. When you're discharged, I can have the brand bring their collection to the house. You can even buy the entire store if you want. Robert is a doctor. A doctor's hands are very important. So, I was just nervous. Don't be angry. William lowered his head, staring at the phone as one message after another came through. In an instant, tears blurred his vision again. He finally couldn't hold it in any longer. You can talk to him. Why can't you talk to me? Even when we're face to face, you still have to text. Are you doing this on purpose? Is this emotional neglect? William lifted his head. He hadn't cried in a long time, but now tears streamed freely down his face, his voice choking. Camila's expression remained calm as still water. No one knew how long she stayed silent before lowering her head to type again. Sorry, I have selective mutism. Then she took out a document from her coat pocket and handed it to him, signaling for him to sign. William looked down. It was the property transfer agreement for the apartment they were currently living in. This is compensation. A sharp ringtone suddenly broke the silence. Camila's expression tightened as she quickly answered the call. Her phone had excellent sound insulation. William couldn't hear who was on the other end. But the next second, Camila replied immediately. I'll be right there. It was Robert. William already knew the answer in his heart. This time, William didn't hesitate. He took out his phone and searched for the online court filing portal. He filled out the petition, both parties' identification information, their marriage certificate details. Under proof of separation, he uploaded the property transfer agreement. He selected Decline Mediation. When he pressed the button to submit the request for trial, it felt as if a long breath finally left his chest. Countdown. 30 days. 3 p.m. At the Property Transaction Center. We'll transfer the house. After staying in the hospital for a week, William received Camila's message. During that entire week, Camila had not sent a single message or made a single call. She hadn't come to see him either. Gradually, he began getting used to being alone. William arrived late, 3:30, but surprisingly, Camila was already waiting in the lobby. She hated people being late, yet there wasn't the slightest trace of impatience on her face. As soon as he arrived, staff from the VIP counter stepped forward to greet them. Camila had even thoughtfully prepared a bouquet, white roses, and beside it, a small velvet box, likely the latest model of a watch. A staff member moved to pull out a chair, but Camila stopped them, indicating she would do it herself. Even William found that unexpected. After thinking for a moment, he spoke. You really didn't have to do all this. A faint smile even appeared on Camila's face as she squeezed his hand. As if it took great effort, she forced out 2 words. It's fine. A rare moment of gentleness. A rare moment of spoken communication. The paperwork was completed quickly. You go home first. I still have to work overtime. A strange feeling began to rise in William's chest, climbing higher and higher until it peaked. He stepped outside and had just called a taxi when he realized he'd forgotten the document folder. He had no choice but to turn back. Camila was still standing in the lobby. In her arms was a much larger bouquet than before, fiery red roses. Robert walked in through the main entrance. She immediately went to greet him. They embraced, and Robert affectionately kissed her on the cheek. President Lin, for the purchase of your new property, please come this way. You're looking to buy a manor, correct? Now that the apartment under your name has just been transferred out, you meet the purchase restriction requirements and may buy another property. Watch your step. Camila hooked her arm around Robert's right arm. Both of them wore expressions of happiness as they walked into the inner office. Though it was July, William Chan had never felt so cold in his life. Cold to the point that he could barely stand. Cold to the point that cold sweat broke out along his back and temples. So he was the one who had been removed. Mr. Chan, hello. Your wife, Ms. Camila, did not respond to this lawsuit request. We reached her by phone, but there was no reply. It will be processed as default agreement to the divorce petition. Chapter 3. So your litigation request has been processed by this court. Within 30 days from the date you submitted the application, you may choose to withdraw it. If you do not withdraw, your marital relationship will be legally dissolved. The court clerk's voice was completely flat. Perhaps this was the simplest case among the countless divorce filings she handled every day. William took a deep breath. Even with trembling hands, he replied with a single word, okay. He took a taxi home. He stood quietly in the living room, looking around at everything. Then he began packing up Camila's belongings. He had no intention of moving out. Instead, he planned to remove everything related to Camila from this house. A knock sounded at the door. Are you President Lin's husband? There's a greeting card for you. It was a courier. He handed over only an envelope. I'm not Miss Lin's husband anymore. William took the card and suddenly said that. The courier froze for a second, then gave an awkward smile. William opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten card. The handwriting was clearly Camila's. He opened it, and Camila's recorded voice came out from within. I miss you. I like you. I love you. Before William could even react, a hand with bright red nail polish snatched the card away from him. He staggered, almost falling. When he looked up, he saw Camila's darkened expression. His phone screen lit up. Don't touch my things. It was her message. Before he could respond, she had already turned and walked downstairs. Camila, you've gone too far. Anger surged through William as he chased after her. I didn't go through your things. What right do you have to disrespect me like this? I don't care what kind of relationship you and your so-called Robert have, but you have no right to humiliate me. A sharp screech pierced the air, the sound of tires scraping against the ground from a sudden break. William felt a violent pain explode at his side. He didn't even see clearly what happened before a car slammed into him from the side, sending his entire body flying. With a heavy crash, he hit the ground again. Struggling to lift himself, he saw a sharply defined jawline looming above him. A man wearing sunglasses, shiny crocodile skin shoes stepped down and crushed his right hand against the pavement. Ah! A broken scream tore from William's throat. Before losing consciousness, he saw Camila running over in panic. The cold indifference from earlier had vanished completely, but she rushed straight to Robert. She grabbed Robert's hand anxiously and inspected it over and over. Only after confirming he was fine did she let out a long breath of relief. Until the moment William blacked out, she never once looked at him. Mr. Chan, your SVIP privileges at Lin Hospital have been revoked. I'm afraid you'll need to stay in a regular room. Apologies, we've just confirmed that even the single rooms are unavailable. You may have to wait in the corridor for surgery. And your right hand, the injury to your palm is severe. You need immediate surgery. Otherwise, you may lose the ability to perform fine motor movements in the future. Even in his hazy state, William jolted. C.A. Camila, where? Get my phone. He tried desperately to sit up, searching for his phone to contact her. The number you have dialed is powered off. A strange, broken sob escaped from William's throat. He suddenly hurled the phone away. It hit the ground with a loud crash. The sharp, piercing pain in his right hand kept gnawing at his nerves. Mr. Chan, we located President Lin. She is currently in the psychological counseling room with the newly arrived Dr. Robert. It seems Dr. Robert was frightened by the incident. President Lin has instructed that no one is to disturb them. William covered his eyes with his left hand. Blood and tears mixed together, soaking through his sleeve. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you so much, Camila. Chapter 4. William barely survived the night in the corridor, relying on a pain pump to endure the agony before finally being scheduled for surgery. His body and mind both hurt so much that he was almost numb. Mr. Chan, I'm sorry. Your right hand suffered a comminuted fracture. Due to the delay in surgery, part of the muscle tissue has become necrotic. You may not be able to lift heavy objects in the future. The doctor gave an awkward smile. I understand you also studied medicine. I'm afraid you may never be able to hold a scalpel again. Would you like to inform President Lin? The Lin family has always been a giant in the medical field. If you seek treatment abroad, there might still be a chance. William shook his head. He looked at his right hand, wrapped thickly in bandages. At the moment, he couldn't even bend it. Could you help me buy a new phone? I want to report this to the police. Before he could finish speaking, the door was kicked open with a loud bang. Camila had arrived. Her originally tense and unpleasant expression softened slightly when she saw William covered in bandages and still hooked up to an IV drip. She opened her mouth but still didn't speak. Instead, she grabbed a piece of paper and a pen. Last night, I didn't know you were this seriously injured. I'll contact overseas specialists for your right hand. William let out a low scoff through his nose. He found it almost amusing. No need. I'll treat my own hand. Camila frowned faintly, seemingly dissatisfied with his reaction. William wanted to bring up the divorce, but after thinking about it, he felt it was unnecessary. Camila took out her checkbook from her inner pocket, wrote down a number, and placed it on the table. This is compensation. I hope you won't blame Robert. The moment William saw Robert's name, he began trembling uncontrollably. Get out. I don't want to see you again, Camila. What, Robert? I'm going to the police. I don't need your money. He grabbed the check from the table, tore it in half, and threw it hard at her. Camila froze. It seemed she had never seen William lose his temper like this. I won't let you hurt Robert. Those words pierced William's heart like a thorn that could never be pulled out. Camila left. William was left behind, his entire body shaking. 10 more days. In 10 days, we'll have nothing to do with each other. Mr. Chan, these flowers were sent by President Lin. Camila Lin had been sending flowers for 3 consecutive days. William hadn't even looked at them. He only gave a dry acknowledgement. Leaning on a crutch, he packed his things and prepared to be discharged. The moment he pushed the door open, he froze. The entire corridor of the hospital was surrounded by a sea of flowers, identical to the ones Camila had been sending these past few days. White roses. William's heart skipped a beat. How did Camila know he was being discharged today? But the next second, the conversations of other patients in the hallway shattered his illusion. President Camila Lin is so doting. To keep Dr. Robert from feeling awkward, she sent flowers to every ward in the hospital and even redecorated the entire floor where Dr. Robert is staying. It must cost tens of thousands every day. Rich people's romance really is on another level. White roses, destined lovers, so romantic. Shoo. Keep it down. President Lin's husband is hospitalized here too. William steadied himself, his face pale as he leaned against the wall and let out a self-mocking laugh. Suddenly, cheers erupted from downstairs. Instinctively, William leaned over the railing to look down. The lobby on the first floor had been decorated with fiery red roses. Camila and Robert stood at the center. Robert, will you stay with me from now on? Camila leaned closer to him, delivering a cliché confession. Robert smiled and accepted the ring box in her hand. The crowd around them applauded and offered congratulations. Camila kissed Robert on the lips. William unconsciously touched his own lips. How long had it been since he had touched hers? 1,000 days and nights. Yet somehow, he could no longer count them clearly. When she was with him, Camila didn't only have selective mutism, she also seemed to suffer from extreme cleanliness, never letting him come too close. At that moment, William felt as though the entire world was nothing more than a poorly staged farce. His ex-wife, who supposedly had selective mutism, publicly confessing her love to her former boyfriend. In the end, not being loved was the original sin. Chapter 5. William stayed out for a while. He bought a new phone, filed a police report, and gave his statement. He finalized his master's application plan for the second half of the year with an overseas study agency and purchased a plane ticket to the United States 10 days later. He planned to undergo treatment while continuing his studies. It was already 7 in the evening when he returned home. Looking at the house, half-packed and covered in a thick layer of dust, he knew Camila had never come back. After eating something simple, William continued sorting through his belongings. The door clicked open. Camila. She glanced at what he was doing, and her expression returned to its usual indifference. She felt that something about William today was different, though she couldn't quite tell what. Without pausing, she walked straight toward the bedroom. The sound of drawers being pulled open and things being rummaged through echoed out. Then she rushed back out, scattering the clothes and personal items William had neatly packed for her. What are you doing? William stepped forward, but she shoved him aside. He fell to the ground. Where is the recorder? She spoke. It had been so long since Camila had spoken directly to him. What recorder? I didn't take anything. William glanced at the blood slowly seeping through the bandages on his right hand as he answered. More frantic searching. When William looked up, he realized he had never seen Camila in such disarray. She was drenched in sweat, her scarf loosened and hanging crookedly around her neck, her dress smeared with dust. Where is the recorder? She stopped and glared at him, fury blazing in her eyes. I told you, I didn't see it. William had never been this firm before. He braced himself with his left hand and staggered to his feet, standing face to face with her. Camila seemed at a loss. Her anger surged, her fists clenched and unclenched before she suddenly grabbed a blue and white porcelain vase nearby and smashed it to the ground. Ceramic shards shattered everywhere. My recorder. Where is it? She stepped closer, continuing to demand. Her right hand had been cut by the broken porcelain. Blood dripped steadily onto the floor. William had never seen her so unhinged. Summoning his courage, he pushed her away and limped toward the door. Then, a voice played. I'm Camila. I'm 18 years old. I want to confess to Robert. Robert. Today is our second anniversary. I hope we'll always be together. Robert. We've been together for 3 years. My wish this year is still the same, to stay together forever. Robert. Why did you leave? Robert. I'm going to get married. Camila stumbled into a pile of clutter. From somewhere, a slightly worn recorder rolled out. A red light blinked. It began playing. They were love letters she had recorded for Robert since her youth. Goodbye, Robert. I hope I'll see you again. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. The recorder seemed damaged from the impact. It kept repeating that single word, goodbye. Camila scrambled up, picked it up, and frantically pressed the buttons. But nothing worked. William stopped. He slowly turned around and leaned against the shoe cabinet by the entrance. Tears streamed down his face. Camila, if you didn't love me, why did you agree to marry me? Her throat moved slightly, as if she wanted to speak, but no words came out. You have to listen to my explanation. William. The message flashed on her phone screen. William closed his eyes, forcing himself to calm down. He swallowed the bitterness rising in his chest. Leave. Take all your things and get out of my house. Camila pressed her lips together tightly. She only gripped the recorder, still endlessly repeating goodbye in her hand, and walked past him. Sorry. Chapter 6. In the days that followed, William did not see Camila again, but before leaving, he still had to return to the hospital one last time to have his dressing changed. In the hospital corridor, Robert's profile had already been updated and displayed among the many experts on the first floor. William glanced at it, and froze. The published paper listed under Robert's name was his university graduation thesis. He checked the name and the dates again and again. The timeline matched almost exactly with his own. Mr. Chan. Hello. A male voice pulled him back to reality. He turned. Robert. Care to chat? Robert raised an eyebrow and tilted his head toward the lounge area. William sat across from him. Everything about Robert was impeccable. His white coat was perfectly pressed, his hair styled meticulously with wax, every strand carefully arranged. Robert smiled faintly. When the court called that day, Camila didn't answer. I did. He gave a seemingly apologetic smile. I didn't know that staying silent would be considered consent to the divorce. Mr. Chan wouldn't blame me, right? William was quiet for a few seconds, then shook his head. No, I was the one who wanted the divorce. Not dragging things out is better for me. Robert didn't seem to care about his answer and continued smoothly. And about the car accident, that was truly an accident. I've already apologized to Camila. She promised me I'd be fine, I assume. Mr. Chan won't hold it against me either. William looked at him steadily without speaking. Deep down, he knew there were things he could not resolve on his own right now, and it was no surprise that Camila would protect Robert. You saw the paper, didn't you? Robert's tone lowered slightly. Yes, just like you think. Camila knew I was doing research and took the initiative to give it to me. For these 3 years, thank you for taking care of Camila. I was overseas doing research and couldn't stay by her side all the time. I only later found out that my sudden departure caused her selective mutism. Robert rubbed his forehead as if troubled, but quickly smiled again. Though I've only been back a short while, Camila has already improved so much. William lowered his eyes, unconsciously stirring the coffee the nurse had handed him. So you're here to show off how much Camila loves you. He set down the spoon and tilted his head back, finishing the bitter black coffee in one gulp. There's no need. I don't care about Camila's past, present, or future. I'm not interested. I don't like a woman who won't speak. But remember this, she's the one I let go first. William stood up and walked toward the payment counter without another glance. Mr. Chan. Robert seemed dissatisfied with his reaction and suddenly reached out to grab William's right hand. The grip sent sharp pain through him. William shook him off hard. Bang. Out of the corner of his eye, William caught sight of a familiar slender figure. Camila. She immediately dropped to one knee, helping Robert up from where he had bumped into the railing. Camila. It's okay. Really, I'm not that fragile. I just lost my balance. William paused briefly. Then he continued walking forward, only to be struck across the face. The slap echoed sharply through the hospital corridor. Patients and medical staff nearby turned to stare. Camila herself seemed momentarily startled. You. She glanced at her own palm, but her expression quickly returned to cold indifference. Apologize. William pressed a hand to his throbbing cheek and almost laughed. Every time Camila truly spoke to him, it was because of Robert. Where exactly was he inferior to Robert? But it didn't matter anymore. Camila. How could you hit Mr. Chan? It's okay, Camila. There's no need for Mr. Chan to apologize. Camila still seemed unwilling to back down, but Robert skillfully held her arm and spoke gently. And just like that, the block of ice that was Camila began to melt again. Once, William had believed that if he was considerate enough, Camila would eventually accept him. If he searched through every medical text, her selective mutism would one day be cured. He had imagined so many possibilities, but the Camila standing in reality had never belonged to him. Chapter 7. The flight to the United States was at 4 p.m. At noon, William received the official divorce decree from the court. From this moment on, he was completely and entirely free. 1 p.m. Downstairs at the company cafe. Let's meet. It was a message from Camila. After a moment of thought, William decided to go. With his luggage in one hand and the divorce decree in the other, he arrived at the cafe early. From 1 to 1:30. From 1:30 to 2 o'clock, Camila had been the one to ask him to meet, yet she didn't show up. He sent her several messages. All disappeared without a trace. Finally, a short reply came. Busy. Hello. Is this Mr. Chan? I'm President Lin's assistant. President Lin asked me to inform you that something urgent came up. She's unable to meet you. William said nothing. This was well within his expectations. President Lin has arranged for a specialist in the UK who focuses on hand, bone and muscle reconstruction. She'll arrange for you to receive treatment, and she has transferred another 20 million to your account for your living expenses and medical care. William stood up, phone in one hand, luggage in the other. The words, "I don't need it," were about to leave his mouth, when he looked up. Across the street, at an outdoor cafe, Camila and Robert were sitting together, chatting and laughing. Robert lowered his head with a gentle smile. Camila looked blissfully happy, leaning slightly toward his shoulder. The sunlight was beautiful that day. Golden light seemed to coat them both in warmth. In the past 3 years, William had never seen Camila smile like that. He immediately cut off the thought. Mr. Chan, are you still there? Her assistant's voice continued on the other end of the line. William decisively pressed the red end call button. After paying the bill, he walked out quickly. He strode straight to their table. With a sharp motion, he slapped the divorce decree, creased from being clenched in his hand the entire time, onto their table. Juice and coffee splashed violently, spilling onto Robert's clothes. Camila instantly grabbed William's right hand. She didn't even glance at the document. After a few seconds of pause, as if realizing arguing with stubborn William was pointless, she walked to the other side of the table and carefully wiped Robert's shirt and trousers with tissues. Are you okay, Robert? William stood there quietly for a moment. Then he turned and hailed a taxi to the airport. Passengers traveling to the United States, please proceed to gate T1 for check-in. A message came in. William, I think you should apologize to Robert. Without hesitation, William blocked and deleted her. He handed his ID card, passport, and visa documents to security. The officer scanned them and glanced at him curiously. Divorced today. After checking in his luggage, William finally looked up and smiled. Yes, divorced. The air conditioning on the plane was strong. William asked the flight attendant for a complimentary cashmere blanket and wrapped himself tightly. He drifted into a deep sleep, without even hearing the takeoff announcement. There was only one thought in his heart. Camila, goodbye. Chapter 8. President Lin. Regarding the flight I booked for Mr. Chan to the UK, the airline replied that he never checked in. I also haven't been able to reach Mr. Chan. Camila Lin sat behind her desk, dealing with the mountain of paperwork in front of her. Ever since Robert returned to a city, her efficiency had noticeably declined. Many senior executives and shareholders in the company were already dissatisfied. It had been nearly 10 days since her last unpleasant encounter with William. She knew William wouldn't apologize. She also knew she had favored Robert too much recently, so she hadn't gone to disturb him. Arranging for William to receive treatment in the UK was meant to create some distance for all three of them. And President Lin, the 20 million you previously transferred to Mr. Chan's account for living expenses was automatically returned by the bank. The bank's reply stated that, you and Mr. Chan are already divorced. He is no longer under your family account. So large transfers at the 10 million level are not permitted. Camila froze. The pen in her hand dragged heavily across the document, tearing the paper. She clicked her tongue and typed on her phone. What divorce? The assistant standing nearby also froze. The company's legal department received the divorce decree about 10 days ago. Your marital status in the system has already been updated from married to divorced. You didn't know. Bring me the file. A moment later, the assistant handed over the court's divorce decree. It was simple, only 2 pages. Camila stared at the signature date at the bottom. It was the very day William had left after their argument. She took out her phone, scrolled up and down for a long time, and finally found William in her contact list using the search bar. When did you apply for divorce? The message sent, but instantly turned into a red exclamation mark, followed by a small line of text. The other party is not your friend. The assistant watched Camila's expression change again and again, until she stood there staring blankly at her phone. Find out where William is now. Camila let out a faint sigh. After giving the order, she lowered her head and returned to her paperwork. Camila, you said you'd accompany me to meet the pharmaceutical representatives tonight. I have to work overtime. Camila leaned forward helplessly and kissed Robert lightly on the lips, then bent her head again to review contracts, stamped documents, and prepare for upcoming negotiations. Camila, when can I meet your parents? My parents are coming back from overseas next week. They want to meet you too. My dad said if the meeting goes well, he'd like to make our relationship official. Robert suddenly pulled the contract from in front of her and held it behind his back, forcing her to look at him. Camila had no choice but to meet his gaze. Up close, his features were refined, but the strong cologne lingering at her nose felt overwhelming. She had always had allergies, and at that moment she sneezed unexpectedly. Robert's expression shifted slightly. His lips pressed together before he leaned closer again. Camila, I don't want to wait any longer. You're divorced now. Being together is completely proper. Camila's hand, which had been reaching for tissues, froze midair. She slowly turned to look at him. How do you know? I'm divorced. The moment she said it, Robert stiffened. Panic flickered across his face. He quickly straightened up and avoided her eyes. I heard it from your assistant. A wave of displeasure rose in Camila's chest. She knew her assistant would never leak her private matters. She did not believe Robert's answer. You agreed to the divorce. At her words, a trace of dissatisfaction surfaced in Robert. Camila, you said you loved me. Why are you getting angry with me over that man? At the time, I didn't know it was the court calling. After I answered, I remembered you have selective mutism. It wouldn't have been appropriate for me to respond on your behalf. Who knew the court's process was like that? If you don't reply, it counts as default consent to divorce. Robert braced his hands on her desk, his tone softening as he leaned closer, attempting to capture her lips. Are you mad at me? He walked around behind the desk and began massaging her shoulders. I'm sorry, Camila. It was my fault. Don't be angry with me, okay? Camila instinctively shifted away from his hands. She opened her mouth as if to speak, but the scent of cologne irritated her again. After a moment's thought, she lowered her head and typed on her phone. We'll talk about meeting your parents after I finish this busy period. Chapter 9. Help me schedule a meeting with the presiding judge at the court. I want him to come to the group. Camila sent the message to her assistant. Early the next morning, she went as usual to the ENT department under her own hospital for a follow-up on her selective mutism. President Lin, your selective mutism has improved, but the progress is still limited. I recommend continuing rehabilitation training here with me. Mr. Chan sent me a very long email some time ago. It detailed your condition over the past 3 years. After reading it, I was quite inspired. I believe we can begin a new course of treatment tailored specifically to you. This time, I'll combine your situation with an entirely new. No need. Before the doctor could finish, Camila had already typed her refusal. Please transfer the materials to Dr. Robert and let him arrange it for me. After leaving the consultation room, Camila had intended to go straight back, but she paused and changed direction. She happened to have time to visit Robert. I told you to call me President, not Dr. Robert. Before Camila reached his office door, she heard his voice from inside. She frowned and did not push the door open. Yes, President. The hospital informed us that you have a meeting at 4 this afternoon, and at 5, you're scheduled for surgery. The nurse's voice grew softer and softer. Through the half-open door, Camila saw Robert holding a mirror and adjusting his hair. Several different bottles of cologne and styling products were laid out across his desk. And the hospital director hopes you can comply with the employee handbook. Doctors are not allowed to wear perfume or use styling oil during work hours or surgery. Before the nurse could finish, Robert slammed his hand on the desk. Do you know whose name this hospital carries? It belongs to my wife. I am Camila Lin's future husband. So it's president, not doctor. Whose words do you think matter more, mine or the director's? His tone was slow but intimidating. The nurse shrank back, clutching her files, and hurriedly opened the door, only to lock eyes with Camila. President Lin. She bowed deeply and greeted loudly. Robert instinctively turned around, a flicker of surprise crossing his face. He immediately walked over, pushed the nurse out the door impatiently, and then turned back to Camila with a bright smile. Camila, here to see me. He tapped her cheek lightly with his index finger, then took her right hand and gestured for her to enter. The heavy scent of cologne made her stomach churn. You shouldn't. Camila had barely begun speaking when Robert pressed her against the back of the door and leaned in. All right, I know. We shouldn't be too high profile. He lowered his head to kiss her, but her lips were tightly pressed together. She leaned back slightly. Their lips only brushed briefly. Robert stiffened at the subtle rejection. You don't like me anymore? Then I'll go apologize to her. He made a move toward the door, but Camila caught his right hand. Next time, I know. Camila, I won't. Don't worry. Camila held her breath, wanting to say something, but nothing came out. Her chest felt tight. My selective mutism records should have been sent to you. Could you handle my next course of treatment? Robert read the words on her phone. A trace of impatience flickered in his eyes. Selective mutism. Isn't it already getting better? Camila, as long as you stay with me more and marry me, it'll naturally disappear. There's no need for treatment. He turned aside, pulled his passport from a drawer, and showed it to her. "Why don't you take me traveling overseas next week? I still need one more course of treatment." She typed again. Robert grew visibly more irritated. He shook off her hand and turned his back to her. "I said there's no need. I'm a graduate of a top medical university too. Why don't you trust me? Since I came back, your condition has improved a lot, hasn't it? Psychological issues like this just require relaxation. I don't even want to keep working here anymore. It's so boring." Camila stared at his back. For some reason, she suddenly thought of William. "I'll accompany you to every future treatment session." "Okay. I'll stay with you until you're completely cured." William's smiling face surfaced in her mind. After a long silence, she suppressed the unease in her heart and stepped forward, wrapping her arms around Robert from behind in a gesture of reassurance. "Rest." The word left her mouth slowly, one syllable at a time. Her throat felt dry, her chest felt unbearably heavy. "President Lin, I'm sorry. The judgment has already been issued and has taken effect. This is an exercise of public authority and cannot be altered. There's no need for me to come to your group again. I have many other cases to handle." Camila opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but the heaviness in her chest remained. Not a single sound came out. Seeing her silence, the presiding judge said goodbye and hung up. She stared at the phone screen displaying "call ended." For a moment, she didn't know how to react. She and William were truly divorced. Chapter 10. William slept for more than 10 hours straight. Only when the landing announcement echoed through the cabin did he slowly wake up. The air conditioning on the plane was strong, but the wool blanket wrapped around him kept him comfortably warm. The aircraft will soon land at Huazhou International Airport in the United States. Please prepare for arrival. William sat up, turned on his phone, and connected to the in-flight Wi-Fi. A rapid string of notification chimes rang out. He quickly switched his phone to silent mode and apologized softly to the passenger beside him. When he looked carefully, he saw several missed calls from unfamiliar American numbers. There was also a small notification on WeChat indicating a new friend request. There wasn't a single message related to Camila. William subtly let out a breath of relief. Only when the slight weightlessness of landing washed over him did he finally feel that his new life had truly begun. "Mr. Chan, are you planning to sell the large flat under your name for 25 million? "Yes. I need cash urgently. Please sell it as soon as possible. A lower price is acceptable." Click. After hanging up, William continued cleaning his new residence in the United States. At this point, the only thing connected to Camila that remained in his life was the apartment she had transferred to him. Given the current situation, selling it and liquidating the asset felt appropriate. In 1 week, he would enroll in the prestigious Huazhou Medical School to pursue a 4-year Master of Medicine degree, focusing again on his specialties, mental health and cardiothoracic medicine. The person who had added him earlier was a faculty member from the university's admissions office, a Chinese-American professor named Misty. After accepting her request, William greeted her briefly. She sent over the course schedule, housing arrangements, and other important information. She also brought good news regarding his right-hand treatment. The affiliated hospital of the medical school would provide him with the most advanced internal treatment options at the lowest possible cost. They even informed him that a more severe case than his had fully recovered within 6 months. His condition was expected to recover in 2 to 4 months. Everything was progressing steadily. Just as William had anticipated, Camila never reached out to him again. She had always been somewhat aloof. At first, she might have assumed he was merely sulking or giving her the cold shoulder. Even after learning the truth, there was no longer any reason or excuse for them to contact each other. The American weather was beautiful. Sunlight streamed through the spotless glass windows, illuminating even the fine dust floating in the air. William found himself humming softly. Then, his phone rang again. "William, we discovered that your undergraduate thesis has already been published under the name of a Robert from Manchester Medical School in the UK. Were you aware of this?" It was Misty. William's eyes darkened slightly. "Yes, my ex-wife gave my thesis to him, but I still have my original outlines and detailed drafts. The field investigations in the paper were all conducted personally by me. I can provide supporting evidence." Misty chuckled lightly. "That's excellent. Please send the relevant materials to my email. The university will initiate an academic misconduct arbitration in your name. It should take about 10 working days. After that, your academic achievement will be restored." William agreed repeatedly. After hanging up, he immediately opened his laptop to prepare the materials. Even though the pain in his right hand forced him to pause every few minutes, a sense of joy rose in his chest. Perhaps, leaving Camila was the most correct decision he had made in these 3 years. Chapter 11. After working day and night without rest for more than 2 weeks, Camila suffered cardiac arrest on a flight to Thailand. At the time, Robert was seated beside her in business class, watching a movie with great interest. A suffocating sensation spread from her chest, gradually engulfing her entire body. It felt as though a massive stone was lodged in her throat. She used every ounce of strength to reach toward Robert. Her hand fell with a dull thud. Even though Robert wasn't wearing headphones, he failed to notice that Camila had quietly lost consciousness beside him. Before darkness claimed her, the despair she felt was more painful than the physical agony, and for some reason, as her eyes were forced shut, the fragments that flashed before her weren't about Robert. They were scenes of life with William. William carefully keeping the house spotless. William cooking nutritious meals for her every single day. William planning her fitness routines, arranging schedules that perfectly matched her time, even helping her handle part of her business affairs. Before her consciousness completely sank, Camila tried to curl the corner of her lips. She couldn't. It felt absurd. A billionaire heiress, the only daughter of her family, and yet for the past 2 weeks, she had been eating takeout every day. Darkness swallowed her entirely. When hazy white light returned to her vision, Camila felt no joy at being alive. President Lin's condition is critical. Preliminary judgment suggests cardiac arrest caused by overwork. However, based on her medical history, it may also be a complication related to selective mutism. It's fortunate that a flight attendant discovered her in time. Otherwise, brain death would have been very likely. Camila's consciousness was still blurred. She tried to move her fingers, but couldn't. Strangely, she didn't feel pain. The strongest sensations were two conflicting emotions. One part of her felt exhausted, desperate for release. The other part felt hollow, aching with an indescribable bitterness. It had been a long time. She hadn't heard Robert's voice. "Robert, are you President Lin's family member?" Silence filled the air. Camila waited, but no answer came. President Lin must have someone with her at all times over the next 3 days. This is an extremely critical period. Someone must remain by her side constantly to prevent another incident. After 3 days, if her indicators stabilize, it would be best to charter a flight and return home. 3 days, but I booked an island-hopping day tour for today. Robert's voice carried dissatisfaction and irritation. Even the doctor sighed. This concerns a human life. Thailand will still be here. You can return for travel once President Lin's condition improves. Can I hire a caregiver for her? Robert seemed to have found what he thought was a reasonable solution, even sounding faintly relieved. But Camila felt as though she were plunging into an endless abyss. That suffocating bitterness of near death surged back into her chest. So this was the man she had loved. When had Robert become so indifferent to her? Beep, beep. The heart monitor suddenly emitted a piercing alarm. Not good. President Lin's vital signs are unstable. Prepare 3 milligrams of epinephrine. Bang. The doctor pressed the defibrillator paddles, coated in gel, against her chest. Her body jolted upward violently. A blinding white flash filled her vision. Then she crashed back down onto the bed. Again and again. She felt as if all the blood in her body had rushed to her head, swelling to the point of splitting apart. And then, she sank once more into endless, chaotic darkness. Chapter 12. President Lin, you're finally awake. That's wonderful. When Camila Lin opened her eyes again, her throat felt as if it were burning. She wanted to cough but couldn't. Her lips were painfully dry. Water. The voice that answered wasn't Robert's. It was her assistant's. Hearing her request, the assistant quickly raised the hospital bed so she could sit up slightly. President Lin, drink slowly. Camila took small sips, but even swallowing required tremendous effort. She pointed to her throat, signaling discomfort. President Lin, your throat hurts? All right, I'll get the doctor. In his rush, the assistant ran out to call the doctor, forgetting even to press the emergency button. Camila slowly scanned the room. She was still in Thailand. Robert was not by her side. Her assistant must have been called over after she lost consciousness again. The doctor and nurses soon entered and performed a brief examination before exhaling in relief. President Lin, you are temporarily out of immediate danger. However, you are still in a critical recovery period. You must remain here for observation. High-altitude cabin pressure could cause hypoxia and potentially trigger another cardiac episode. Camila glanced at her assistant. He immediately understood. President Lin says her throat is uncomfortable. She would like it examined again. Before the doctor could respond, Robert's voice sounded from the doorway. Camila's throat is definitely fine. I personally checked her recently. Everyone turned. Robert stood there wearing a large gold watch, sunglasses pushed up onto his head. Dressed like a vacationer, he carried several luxury brand shopping bags in his hands. Camila, you're finally awake. I waited so long for you to wake up. I stepped out for less than half an hour and you woke up. What a coincidence. I'm so happy. He pushed past everyone and rushed to her bedside. The sudden movement jolted her chest. Pain shot through her, and she vomited a mouthful of blood. Ah. Robert cried out at the sight of blood and instinctively stepped back several times in disgust. When he noticed the others staring at him, he forced an awkward smile. That was unexpected. I didn't react in time. Only then did he slowly step forward again, picking up tissues to wipe her mouth. Camila's expression turned icy. She turned her head away, avoiding his touch. Robert's hand hovered awkwardly in midair. Her assistant smoothly took the tissues from him and gently cleaned the blood from the sheets. Perhaps you could step outside for a moment while the doctor continues the examination. What did you say? Are you implying I don't understand medicine? Something in Robert snapped. Anger flared instantly, but the assistant blocked him and pushed him out of the room, locking the door behind him. Robert refused to give up. He twisted the handle frantically. When it wouldn't open, he began pounding on the door. Who do you think you are to stop me from going in? I told you I'm a doctor too. Why can't I be present? I'm President Lin's future husband. What are you? When Camila recovers, I'll have her fire you immediately. Camila, open the door. Let me in. His final shout made several people in the room exchange glances. Then he added, my shopping bags are still inside. Chapter 13. The ruling on the ownership of William's thesis came quickly. The hearing was scheduled for 3 days later. A 3-member review panel would be formed, consisting of Robert's master's supervisor and 2 professors from Huazhou Medical School. They would examine the paper on the spot, review collaboration traces and supporting materials, and make a final determination. That morning, William dressed early, a tailored dark gray suit, a white stand-collar shirt underneath, matching cropped gray trousers, polished brown leather shoes. Looking at himself in the mirror, he felt something was missing. He immediately went to a nearby Mont Blanc boutique and selected a coordinated brooch and wristwatch. You have excellent taste, sir. The sales associate praised generously. William smiled politely. Thank you. When William arrived at the venue, Misty was already there, earlier than him. Soon, the professors arrived as well. Robert did not. Professors. The phone number left by Mr. Robert remains unreachable. Prior to this, we sent formal written invitations, but received no response. According to regulations, this evaluation hearing will proceed. After explaining the situation, the staff instructed everyone to present the prepared materials. These included the original thesis manuscript, William's writing outlines and draft records, citation logs and field investigation documentation. Since Robert had provided nothing, the committee had independently collected his academic records during his studies, class assignments, other published papers, and related materials for comparison. The result came quickly. There was almost no suspense. After review, the panel has determined that ownership of the thesis belongs to Mr. William. With the approval of the Dean of Manchester Medical School, Mr. Robert will be stripped of part of his research credentials. His master's diploma and degree certificate will be revoked. Thunderous applause erupted. Misty beamed and gave William a warm hug. William felt both hands trembling. His face flushed. Tears shimmered faintly in his eyes. Seeing his expression, Misty mistakenly thought she had overstepped. I'm sorry. William, I'm just so happy for you. William shook his head. I'm just too happy. Even his voice trembled. I never imagined it would go this smoothly. Back home, my family always told me not to compete, not to fight. I thought, as long as I had. He paused abruptly, as if something had caught in his throat, but he quickly composed himself. It doesn't matter. The past doesn't matter anymore. What matters is now. I'm truly happy. Even though this was mine to begin with, I never thought fairness would actually return it to me. Misty's eyes sparkled. Exactly. There is fairness here. William, you deserve your research. When William returned home, he received an official congratulatory email from his undergraduate alma mater. He logged into major medical academic databases and searched for his thesis title. The update had already been processed. The author name had changed from Robert back to William. William nearly danced around the room in joy. It felt as though rebirth had truly begun the moment he signed the divorce papers. Before marriage, he had lived for his parents and family. After marriage, he transferred his household registration under Camila's name and worked tirelessly for her, day and night. For 3 years, he had hardly cooked a single meal for himself. Only now did he realize, divorce and rebirth were almost synonyms. Chapter 14. After nearly 2 weeks of recuperation in Thailand, Camila finally chartered a private jet back home. Her cardiac condition had stabilized somewhat, but her selective mutism had worsened again. Even when facing Robert, she could no longer speak a full sentence naturally and smoothly. On the second day after regaining consciousness, Camila had already resumed work. Meanwhile, Robert continued enjoying himself, shopping, island hopping, clubbing, living as if on permanent vacation. He had even short-term rented a villa. When Camila confirmed the date of their chartered return flight, he looked displeased. So we're going back to work again. Camila, can I quit my job? He took a sip of water while speaking to her on the plane. Camila instinctively raised her hand to hold his, but halfway through, she inexplicably changed direction and picked up her own water glass instead. Do as you wish. Then once we're back, let's register our marriage. Okay. My parents already mailed me the household registration booklet. I really want to be listed in the same one as you. Robert leaned closer. The heavy scent of his cologne made her head ache, but his words made her freeze. Only then did she suddenly remember. After she married William, he had transferred his household registration under her name. Now, she didn't even know what had happened to that. Robert clearly wasn't satisfied with her silence. His brows furrowed, and his tone turned sharp and sarcastic. Camila, if you won't marry me and won't take me to meet your parents, are you just playing with me? Before I went abroad, you said you wanted to marry me. Now I'm back. You're divorced. You're free. And you have no reaction to marriage? Do you still like your William? He left and now you can't let go. Is that it? Those words struck something inside her. She didn't even look at Robert. Her gaze remained fixed on the water glass in front of her. Lately, she had been thinking of William often. Was it because she couldn't let go? Did she still care? If William were still here, would he have forced her to travel abroad under such exhausting pressure? Would he have noticed her discomfort immediately? Would she have ended up in the hospital for a second resuscitation? Would her selective mutism have worsened again? Bang! The sharp crash snapped her back to reality. She turned. Robert stood there, furious. The water glass lay shattered at his feet, fragments scattered, liquid soaking the carpet. A few flight attendants hesitated nearby, unsure whether to intervene. Camila, answer me. Why won't you respond to me? Do you love me or not? Say it. She looked up. His voice thundered through the cabin. His face was twisted with anger, features contorted in a way she had never seen before. For a moment, the man before her felt like a stranger, no longer gentle, no longer patient. Where had things gone wrong? Slap. The sound was crisp and sharp. Camila froze, her right hand instinctively rising to her cheek. She stared at Robert in disbelief. He, too, seemed shocked, staring at his own hand as if unsure what had just happened. The cabin fell silent, save for the steady hum of air circulation. Every passenger nearby was stunned. Camila, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just anxious. You wouldn't answer me. I didn't know why you wouldn't talk to me. His lips trembled. He knew she was angry. He moved forward, attempting to embrace her, but her assistant stepped in and blocked him. Camila turned away. Her chest felt unbearably tight. Exhaustion weighed on her. She waved her right hand weakly. Several bodyguards immediately stepped forward and escorted the still protesting Robert to another cabin. Her heart pounded violently. Faster, faster. Her breathing grew rapid. And once again, Camila lost consciousness. Chapter 15. When Camila woke again, she was still in the hospital. The medical equipment surrounding her was even more advanced than before. The constant beeping made her head ache. She raised her hand, intending to silence the noise, but nausea surged violently up her throat. At first, she vomited what seemed to be remnants of airplane food, then only bitter bile. She clutched the edge of the bed, gasping for breath for a long time before the nausea subsided. At that moment, arguing voices erupted outside the ward. Another sharp slap rang out. It sounded like Robert's furious shouting followed, but Camila felt nothing. She couldn't even describe her emotions. Was it that she had no energy left to care? Or that she simply no longer cared? Who gave you the nerve to hit my daughter? When she was in the country, she was perfectly fine. How is it that after going to Thailand with you, she had cardiac arrest on the flight there, and after barely stabilizing, she fainted again on the flight back? Do you understand how dangerous that was? If anything had happened to her, even killing you 10,000 times wouldn't be enough. Camila knew her mother had disliked Robert ever since 3 years ago, and now, there was a legitimate reason to oppose them. Robert's shouting gradually softened, turning pleading. Auntie, I was wrong. I really was. She wouldn't respond to me, and I panicked. I thought she didn't love me anymore. Please forgive me, please. Camila slowly pushed herself upright, picked up the glass of water beside her, and rinsed her mouth. Only then did her mind clear slightly, but her throat still felt tight. Now even swallowing came with a distinct sensation of obstruction. Perhaps hearing movement from inside, the ward door burst open. Robert rushed in. He was still dressed in his vacation clothes from the plane. It seemed he had come directly here after the incident. He stumbled forward, and fell to his knees in front of her. His hands clutched desperately at her knees. Camila, please listen to me. I didn't mean it. I never meant for you to get sick. I didn't know it would be that serious. Selective mutism can't cause reactions like that. I'm a doctor. I know. His hands trembled as he reached for her face. Camila, say something. Okay, you love me, right? Camila's expression remained calm. Perhaps it wasn't that she couldn't speak anymore. Perhaps she simply didn't want to. Her mother stood at the doorway, watching silently, as if waiting for her to decide. Camila lifted her eyes briefly toward the assistant standing behind her mother. Immediately, several bodyguards entered and began pulling Robert off the floor. No, don't take me away, Camila. You can't do this to me. I came back to this country for you. Do you remember what happened 3 years ago? Camila. His voice grew more distant until it disappeared down the corridor. The sound of objects clattering and crashing echoed faintly. Camila closed her eyes. My daughter, I know you're grown now. You have your own thoughts. Her mother stepped closer to the bedside. I know about your divorce from William. That was between the two of you. Even if I opposed it, you wouldn't have been happy. But the person you've chosen now, will he truly make you happy? I hope you think carefully. Chapter 16. Camila stared in disbelief at the laryngeal examination report in front of her. President Lin, after the examination, part of your speaking problem may be related to selective mutism, and part of it is due to a tumor growing behind your throat's laryngeal tube. It may be the result of you being overly exhausted during this period. The tumor has been developing very rapidly recently. We recommend that you arrange for surgical removal as soon as possible. I have a checkup every month, don't I? Why was this never detected? The attending oncologist glanced at the screen of Camila's phone. President Lin, I've reviewed your previous reports. It's true that nothing showed up in the examinations over the past 3 years. However, in last month's report, the tumor was already clearly visible. If it had been treated at that time, it probably wouldn't have led to such serious consequences. Oh, right. At the time, Dr. Robert took the report directly. You know, Dr. Robert has a great deal of authority in this hospital, so none of the other doctors intervened in your personal medical matters. The doctor did not continue on that topic. He simply informed Camila of the precautions she needed to take over the next few days and gave her several suitable dates for surgery. After looking them over, Camila felt her mind in turmoil. She raised her right hand and pressed her temple. She just felt so tired. It seemed that ever since Robert came back and William left, her life had become a complete mess. She let out a long, heavy sigh. Arrange the surgery for tomorrow morning. As Camila lay on the operating table, she actually did not feel much nervousness. The doctor, on the other hand, was extremely tense, constantly reassuring her that this was only a minor procedure. President Lin, please rest assured, we will use the most advanced technology available. The incision will be very small, and the tumor will ultimately be removed through your mouth. For 1 month after the operation, you must only consume room temperature liquid food and avoid any stimulation to your throat. Camila nodded. Soon, the nurse turned her over, and the anesthesia was injected through her spine. She felt the cold medication slowly entering her body, and then her consciousness gradually faded. Camila had a dream. It seemed she had returned to the day of her blind date with William. She still remembered that at the time, Robert had just left without saying goodbye and flown abroad. Back then, Robert didn't even know her true identity. What she had admired was his determination and conviction to leave resolutely in pursuit of his ideals. Hello, I'm William. Camila followed the voice. It was William from 3 years ago, when they had first met. 3 years ago, she had looked at him with disdain and contempt, deep down looking down on the pampered young heir of a wealthy family. This is the eldest son of the Chan family. He's extremely outstanding. He has already completed his bachelor's degree in medicine and has received multiple graduate school offers. Even the hospitals in the capital hope he can join them. Her mother, standing beside her, was very satisfied with William. Mr. Chan, are you not planning to continue your studies? Camila was also intrigued by her mother's question and studied the men in front of her. 3 years ago, she had never paid attention to what William studied, where he graduated from, or what plans he had. I am. William lifted his head and looked at Camila. Because I like Camila very much. It's normal to give up one thing for another. At this moment, I want to try choosing Camila. Camila abruptly opened her eyes, struggling to sit up, but the nurse forcefully pressed her back down. Administer more anesthesia. Why did she suddenly wake up? She heard the doctor's voice. Her eyes grew moist as she once again began to lose consciousness. She could no longer remember what William's real answer had been 3 years ago, nor did she know where this sentence had come from. She had never known that William liked her so much, enough to give up so many things for her. Her last conscious thought before slipping into unconsciousness was, she wanted to find William again. Chapter 17. President Lin, you really can't get on a plane so soon. Even if we found out which university Mr. Chan is attending in the United States, you still have to prioritize your health. The assistant paced anxiously back and forth in front of Camila's hospital bed. At the earliest, you can't fly until next month. The doctor also said that high-altitude conditions make accidents far more likely. Haven't you learned your lesson from what happened in Thailand? Book me a ticket for next Monday to Huazhou, USA. Camila didn't say much. She simply typed the words onto her phone screen. Check where William Chan's household registration is currently located. The assistant's expression turned awkward when she saw the line. After you divorced Mr. Chan, he processed the transfer of his household registration online. I no longer have the authority to see where it was moved. It's possible it was transferred back to the Chan family. And the house you previously transferred to Mr. Chan, he's already sold it. Aside from his previous bank account, we no longer have any way to establish contact with him. Camila stopped typing, and the assistant naturally fell silent as well. But then, there was a knock at the door. Before anyone could open it, The visitor had already walked in. It was Robert. In just a few days since they had last seen each other, Robert had grown noticeably haggard. Deep dark circles hung under his eyes. No amount of makeup could conceal them. His cheeks were hollowed out, and his entire demeanor was dispirited and exhausted. This time, Camila didn't even need to signal her assistant. The assistant immediately stepped forward and blocked him. "Sir, it's not convenient for you to come in. President Lin needs rest." Robert bit down hard on his lower lip. Camila, can you not reject me like this? I really know I was wrong. Can you forgive me?" A trace of impatience surfaced in Camila's eyes. Robert saw every bit of it, and panic completely overtook him. "Camila, the thesis you gave me, my advisor contacted me. The academic misconduct arbitration ruled that it belongs to William. My authorship rights, my degree, and my graduation certificate have all been revoked." His voice trembled uncontrollably, as if he were sinking into profound fear. When Camila heard him mention this, she suddenly remembered the absurd things she had done before. The guilt she felt toward William deepened even further. "Now, the hospital is going to fire me too. As long as you say one word, just one word, I can stay. I'm begging you. Please speak for me. We were together for so long." Robert's knees trembled violently. Seeing Camila's indifferent expression, he suddenly gritted his teeth and dropped to his knees with a loud thud that echoed across the floor. "Camila, I'm kneeling before you. Can you give me a chance to change?" Camila glanced at Robert kneeling on the ground. In the end, her heart softened slightly, but she only gave a faint nod before looking away. The assistant immediately understood and called security to escort Robert out. Robert's sobbing was so loud it seemed as though every hospital room could hear it. Camila opened her phone and pulled up the email from a few months ago, when she had packaged William's thesis and all related research materials and sent them to Robert, her heart filled with overwhelming regret. "In William's name, donate $20 million to the medical school in Huazhou." She sent the message to her assistant. Chapter 18. Camila chartered a private jet to the United States, bringing along a team of private doctors and $30 million worth of cutting-edge medical equipment. The cabin was chilled to a low temperature. Watching the cold air stream down from the vents above, Camila felt an inexplicable heaviness pressing on her chest. No one in the cabin spoke. With her eyes closed, she could hear nothing but her own heartbeat. She admitted that she had begun to miss William. Yet during the time he had been gone, she had not known how to face those feelings or how to sort through them. All her contact methods had been blocked by him. The divorce decree was still in her briefcase. In truth, Camila had no confidence in taking the initiative to reach out to William. The only thing she could do was spend more money, make more compensation, hoping he might change the negative impression he held of her. She had never thought that the dozen-plus hours on a plane could feel so unbearably long. She tossed and turned in the spacious first-class cabin, unable to fall asleep for even a moment. Every hour, her private doctor came to check on her physical condition. At last, the plane landed. Huazhou, USA, was drenched in heavy rain, shielded by 7 or 8 private bodyguards. Camila passed through the VIP channel and stepped directly into a black luxury van. "President Lin, we'll head to the hotel first. As per your request, the donation of funds and supplies to Mr. Chan's medical school has already been fully delivered. The equipment transported on this charter flight will also be sent over immediately. There's no need to worry." The assistant reported the latest progress while displaying the successful transfer records on her iPad. Camila pushed the iPad away with one hand and smoothed her long hair with the other. "We're not going to the hotel. Go straight to the medical school. Call the dean and inform him that I'm on my way. Then, should we ask the dean to notify Mr. Chan to be present?" The assistant hesitated, waiting for Camila's response. Camila, unusually, fell silent. "Please ask the dean to arrange a private meeting between William and me." The drive from the airport to the university took no more than 30 minutes. Yet Camila was so tense that the palm gripping the seat's armrest was slick with sweat. She didn't know whether William's departure had been a calculated move to make her chase him, nor did she know whether he still had any feelings left for her. Exhausted, she closed her eyes for a brief rest, but the discomfort and tight obstruction in her throat clung to her relentlessly. Despite the torrential rain, the dean of the medical school stood respectfully outside the main entrance. "President Lin, thank you very much for your generosity." Camila did not spare him a glance. Surrounded by bodyguards and her assistant, she hurried into the research building. She gave her assistant a look. The assistant immediately turned back into the curtain of rain and shook hands with the dean. "Dean, President Lin's schedule is very tight. Regarding the meeting with Mr. Chan that we discussed earlier, may I ask where it has been arranged?" The dean paused, his expression shifting subtly. After a moment of hesitation, he could only lead the way. "It was in one of the medical school's precision laboratories. I'm sorry, we have no authority to require students to attend non-academic occasions. To accommodate President Lin's request, we could only temporarily arrange an experimental class." There was a trace of dissatisfaction in his tone, but Camila paid it no mind. She brushed past the bodyguards in front of her, intending to walk straight into the laboratory. The lab door was thick and heavy, clearly impossible to pass through directly. However, the upper portion was half glass. Just as Camila signaled for the dean to unlock the door with his credentials, she heard laughter from inside. William's voice, mingled with that of an unfamiliar girl. They were talking and laughing easily. A surge of panic gripped Camila's heart. When she thought carefully, she realized it had been a very long time since she had last seen William smile. Chapter 19. Camila looked inside through the transparent partition. William was wearing a white lab coat, focused on conducting an experiment. The girl standing beside him was about a head shorter. The two of them seemed to be discussing experimental data. No one else was involved. Their discussion appeared intimate and natural. Camila couldn't hear the specifics. The laboratory was well soundproofed. She could only catch faint bursts of laughter. From this angle, William's smile was radiant. The girl beside him looked equally delighted. Camila suddenly didn't dare to open the door. She was afraid the outcome would be unbearable. A wave of tightness gripped her chest. Her head swam with dizziness. She could barely stand. A slight sway backward almost made her collapse. The assistant beside her immediately panicked and called the doctors waiting at the entrance of the institute. Oxygen tank. Is there an oxygen tank? Hurry. President Lin needs emergency treatment. Inside the precision laboratory, William seemed disturbed by the commotion in the corridor and instinctively turned his head. Camila forcefully shoved away the people trying to support her, snatched the dean's ID access card from around his neck, and with a sharp beep, swiped open the laboratory door. William was startled by the sudden intrusion. Almost instinctively, he stepped in front of Misty, shielding her behind him. Only then did he clearly see who had come. That single protective gesture pierced Camila's eyes. The words she had intended to say lodged in her throat. Their gazes finally met. Who is she? Did you divorce me because of her? Camila refused emergency treatment. She also refused to rest in a lounge. She only demanded that Misty leave. When the heavy lab door shut with a click, only Camila and William remained inside. William no longer looked at her directly. He turned around and adjusted the microscope in front of him. Anger surged within Camila. With a loud crash, she swept the instruments and materials off the experiment table. The sudden violence clearly startled William. His initial shock slowly turned into silence. His hands hung at his sides. Then he crouched down, slowly gathering the experimental samples from the floor. He picked up the microscope they had just been using and placed it back on the table. The lens was already shattered. The equipment William had always cherished was now completely ruined. Still dissatisfied, Camila grabbed his right hand and yanked him toward her. Answer me. The glare of her phone screen was blinding. A surge of irritation flooded William's heart. He forcefully shoved her hands away, breaking free so abruptly that even he seemed surprised by his own strength. Camila, I'm not mute, and you're not mute either. Your medication is back in the country, with Robert. I've already made space for you too. Stop coming here to make trouble for me. As the words left his mouth, William suddenly realized something. He bit down stubbornly on his lower lip. The thesis was written by me. I got it back on my own. You have no right to interfere. Do you really think that the so-called power in your hands can control everything? If you've got the guts, let Robert write his own thesis and win his own awards. I am not the ladder for him to climb up. William's expression was intense, his chest rising and falling violently. But Camila was in so much pain that she could barely straighten her back. Cold sweat poured down her skin. One hand hastily braced against the edge of the lab table, yet she still collapsed to the floor with a heavy thud. Save me. Chapter 20. Camila forced herself to stay conscious. A sharp ringing filled her ears. She could see William's expression, agitated, his lips moving nonstop, but she couldn't hear what he was saying. She wanted to apologize. She wanted to ask him if he could come back. She wanted to ask him if they could not divorce, but none of it made it out. Her breath was lodged in her throat, neither rising nor falling. She didn't know whether it was her selective mutism acting up again or the unhealed wound from the tumor removal. Her throat felt unbearably dry. The words she wanted to say were countless, yet in the end they condensed into just one sentence. I'm sorry. Her right hand struggled to grip the corner of the table, trying to steady herself, but behind her, it felt as though a massive black hole was dragging her backward, refusing to let her stand. Her other hand stretched forward desperately, reaching for William. He wasn't far away, but somehow, she simply couldn't grasp him. William. Her eyelids grew heavier and heavier. Her throat tightened until even breathing became difficult. Time seemed to freeze in that moment. She sat on the floor in despair, gasping for air, staring at the ground to force herself to remain conscious. The ringing in her ears intensified. Then people rushed in, one after another. Someone lifted her up. Someone fitted a breathing mask over her mouth and nose. At last, fresh oxygen flooded into her lungs. William. Where was William? It felt like a long time before Camila regained clarity. The moment she did, She tore the breathing mask off her face and pushed back hard against the force trying to move her forward. William. Her own voice rang clearly in her ears. Even the people around her froze. Camila stiffly twisted her body to look behind her, and once again, reality sank her heart to the depths. The girl who had been laughing and talking with William moments ago was now holding both his hands, her face full of concern as she asked if he was all right. William gave a small smile, signaling that he was fine. Camila had never felt heartbreak so distinctly. Suddenly, she remembered the night more than 3 years ago when Robert had left. When she learned of his departure, all she had received was a handwritten letter. There had been no explanation, only the fact that he was gone. Back then, her emotions had been complicated: sadness, frustration, the unwilling anger of being abandoned. Even after being diagnosed with selective mutism, she had not been afraid. She had only felt unwilling to trust anyone else again, unwilling to speak for meaningless social exchanges. But what she felt now was fear, a massive, overwhelming fear she had never experienced before enveloped her entirely. She didn't know what William had just said to her, but she already sensed the answer. He probably would never choose her again. Camila clenched her teeth and staggered forward, pushing through the crowd, trying once more to reach William. It was only a few steps, yet her entire body was drenched in sweat. The blast of cold air from the air conditioning instantly raised goosebumps across her skin. She shoved the girl standing in front of William aside. William instinctively stepped back several paces, his eyes filled with vigilance. Camila opened her mouth. At last, her voice returned home. "Remarry me. Come home." But William's rejection was absolute. The chill in his eyes deepened. The corners of his mouth turned downward, his brows furrowed in visible annoyance. "I refuse." Chapter 21. It ended in complete discord. Camila sat quietly in her hotel room, listening to her father's voice over the phone. "You're already in this condition and you're still running all over the world. I'm not blaming you for being sick. But the doctor made it very clear, you're not allowed to travel. Do you know how many issues the corporation is facing right now? Do you know how much the group lost in just the 2 days you were unconscious?" Camila listened, but said nothing. After a long silence, she tapped the phone with her other hand to signal acknowledgement, then hung up. She leaned against the headboard of the hotel bed and sat there in a daze for a long time. Over and over in her mind echoed William's words, "I refuse." Camila still couldn't accept that reality. "President Lin. Chairman Lin has booked you a return flight this afternoon." About that, her assistant knocked and entered carefully, informing her in a cautious tone. Camila let out a long sigh and waved her hand weakly, her face full of exhaustion. After returning to a city, Camila used the excuse of sponsorship to inquire about William's situation every so often. She didn't have the courage to contact him directly. About half a year passed like this. During that time, Robert was still working at a hospital under the Lin Group. However, because his research results, degree certificate, and graduation certificate had been revoked by the university, it was later discovered that his medical practitioner qualification had been obtained through a loophole in a joint domestic and international education program. He had not actually completed any formal theoretical or practical professional training. As a result, a city-first hospital also revoked his registered medical license. Over those 6 months, Robert tried countless times to see Camila, but he never managed to meet her even once. In the end, with no other options left, he resorted to bribing the hospital director through various means. Only then did he barely manage to keep his job, but only as an assistant physician. It was the spring of the following year. President Lin. Camila's assistant rushed into the office, her face bright with excitement. 4 months. Camila had numbed herself with high-intensity work. During that time, she had also tried every possible legal channel to appeal and revoke the already effective divorce judgment. But every attempt had been rejected on the grounds of insufficient evidence and proper legal service at the time. Mr. Chan is coming back to the country, and this time, it said he'll be competing for a newcomer award in the medical field. Camila's attention snapped upward. She put down the documents in her hand and signaled the assistant to continue. This competition and the subsequent academic forum will be held at a city-first hospital. That means Mr. Chan is returning to a city. Camila shot to her feet so abruptly that several documents fell to the floor. When she typed the word into her device. For the past 6 months, she had been undergoing treatment and physical recovery. The tumor in her throat had been completely removed, and follow-up examinations showed no signs of regrowth. But she still could not speak. Her selective mutism had not healed. She had no medication for it. Perhaps, her medicine this time was William. Next week. President Lin. Should we contact the A City Medical Association in advance, to ensure Mr. Chan wins the award? Even now, Camila could feel her nerves tightening. She gripped her phone so hard her hands began to tremble. She typed, deleted, typed again. Under the name of event sponsorship. Transfer 10 million in funding. Visit every professor who may participate in this forum. Make my intentions clear. Yes, President Lin. Her assistant agreed immediately and left to carry out the arrangements. But Camila's heartbeat refused to settle. Chapter 22. Camila finished a full day of work at around 11 o'clock at night. When she went down to the underground parking garage to drive away, she ran into Robert. He had been waiting there for nearly an entire day. The moment he saw her, his face lit up with uncontrollable joy. "Camila," Robert called out excitedly. Camila didn't respond. She stared at him for 2 seconds, then tried to brush past him and open her car door. But Robert blocked the handle tightly, refusing to let her leave. "Camila, how long are you going to stay mad at me?" Only then did Camila lift her head and take a proper look at him. He was still impeccably dressed. He wore Armani's latest spring collection, and the watch on his wrist had been replaced with a diamond mechanical timepiece. They stood very close. Every breath Camila took was filled with the heavy floral scent of his perfume. A wave of nausea rose in her stomach. Instinctively, she stepped back and lightly covered her nose with her hand. That small gesture told Robert everything, pure disgust and rejection. His grip on the car handle tightened silently. "Camila, I'm not a doctor anymore, but all those years of study weren't for nothing. Back then, you said it yourself. I just took shortcuts other people couldn't. You knew it. You supported it, didn't you? So why have you suddenly changed your face now?" There was anger and resentment in his voice, though he tried hard to suppress it in front of her. Camila remained standing there, silent. After a brief pause, Robert continued, "I really know I was wrong. In Thailand, and before that, it was all because I wanted to marry you so badly. I thought you would tolerate me endlessly, care about me. So I became spoiled and reckless because I relied on your affection. Camila, can you give me one more chance? Let's get back together. Okay, I'll study properly again. I'll retake all the exams and earn my certifications legitimately. I'll put you first in everything. I'll personally oversee all your treatment plans. Your selective mutism was almost healed half a year ago when I came back. Please give me one more chance to make up for everything. Okay." His voice cracked. His words tumbled over each other in desperation, every sentence a plea. Camila still said nothing. She lowered her head and calmly sent a message on her phone. Robert watched her anxiously. Within minutes, 2 teams of security guards rushed in from both ends of the garage. "President Lin, we've received your instructions." Without hesitation, they grabbed Robert from the car door despite his struggles and restrained him to the side. "Please get in the car." Another guard immediately opened the door for Camila. "Camila. Camila, don't do this. Just give me one more chance, please." Robert's knees were so weak that, if not for the guards holding him up, he would have collapsed to the ground. "Camila, I'll be participating in this competition too. Just give me one chance. Okay, if I win, can we talk?" Camila had been about to step on the accelerator, but those words made her freeze. The dim underground garage was illuminated only by the cold glow of her phone screen. "Robert, I have already clearly broken up with you. The estate has been transferred into your name. Stop harassing me." She paused, then typed another sentence. "In this competition, I will not let you take what belongs to William ever again." Chapter 23. William had not expected that this year's competition would be held in a city. After the incident in the university laboratory, nearly everyone in the medical school, including Misty, had learned that he was the ex-husband of the sole heir of a prominent pharmaceutical conglomerate back in the country. People's attitudes toward him shifted almost overnight. Some distanced themselves, afraid of being dragged into unnecessary trouble. Others drew closer, hoping to gain some advantage from the connection. But Misty remained the same as always. They never brought up the subject. They continued getting along just as they had before. William knew that Misty had feelings for him, but since she had never confessed, he pretended not to notice, maintaining their friendship as it was. This time, when he returned to a city, Misty had offered to accompany him. He refused. William wanted to reclaim what he had once lost, on his own. His parents, his family, and his friends were still in a city. He couldn't simply stop coming home because he had divorced Camila. The competition lasted 2 days. The first day was the theoretical round. The second day was laboratory practice. The day before the competition, the director of a city-first hospital privately contacted William, exchanged pleasantries, and invited him to dinner. After some hesitation, William accepted, but he hadn't expected that, aside from the hospital director, nearly every prominent figure in the medical field would be present. Throughout the dinner, no one deliberately targeted him or paid excessive attention to him. Instead, the leading experts engaged in an in-depth discussion on a specific medical topic, covering both theory and practical application. Nearly every professor offered their own perspective. It wasn't until the day of the competition, when William received the exam topic, that he understood. The theme of this year's competition was exactly the subject those professors had discussed the previous night: laryngeal tumors. They had intentionally leaked the topic to him. William fell into silence. He could easily guess why. Camila. That was the kind of person she was. If she wanted something, she would find a way to obtain it, no matter what. He handed in a blank paper. On the second day, he did not skip the practical round, but he deliberately performed poorly, making obvious mistakes. Even the medical staff supervising the session offered reminders, yet he acted as if he hadn't heard them. After leaving the hospital, William immediately bought a ticket back to the United States. Everything here felt meaningless. Yet just before boarding, he received a call from the event organizers. Mr. Chan, hello. Congratulations on winning the gold medal in this competition. We regret that you left early and were unable to attend the award ceremony, but we will mail the medal, certificate, and prize money to your address in the United States. William couldn't help but let out a quiet, incredulous laugh. So this was what it felt like to be placed on a pedestal. He replied lightly that it wasn't necessary, then boarded the plane without another word. During the long flight, the entire episode felt like an absurd farce. It wasn't until he landed and returned to campus that Misty called him. William, do you remember Robert? The one who took your thesis before, he also participated in this forum competition. I just received news that he filed a complaint with the organizers, accusing you of using improper means to obtain the award. He even posted your exam paper and your practical operation video online. William, tell me honestly, what's going on? I know your ability. There's no way you would perform that poorly on something as straightforward as a laryngeal tumor procedure. Chapter 24. William scrolled through the complaint post that had been exposed on a domestic medical forum, and the more he read, the more absurd it felt. He had never wanted to rely on anyone to obtain something that did not rightfully belong to him. Yet once again, he had been dragged back into the center of public scrutiny. His phone chimed at just that moment, a message from an unfamiliar number. William, I'm sorry. I didn't know things would turn out like this. I'll have someone handle Robert's complaint post on the forum immediately. I guarantee it won't affect you. As for this award, just accept it with peace of mind. I won't allow any unexpected changes. Trust me. It was Camila. The entire world felt like a farce. That was William's only thought. He still did not reply to Camila. Instead, he immediately called the event organizers, informing them that he did not wish to accept the award. He promptly faxed a formal clarification statement along with a declaration of withdrawal from the prize. As expected, it wasn't long before another message from Camila arrived. William, I'm truly sorry. I will donate another batch of equipment to your institution. Also, I've just instructed Jiangzhou Hospital to hold another similar competition and forum at the end of the year. This time, I will strictly control Robert. There will absolutely be no mistakes. William read the message and couldn't help but feel a bitter laugh rise in his chest. After thinking for a long time, he finally replied with one sentence. I will not remarry you. Please leave my world. The moment he sent it, he blocked Camila's new number. Almost instantly, another message came through, from yet another unfamiliar number. Still Camila. A suffocating pressure settled heavily in his chest. Then came a wave of exhaustion. Apologies and promises kept flooding in. Interspersed among them were bank transfer notifications and inquiries from his institute's dean. This had once been the life he desperately wanted. Now, it felt like nothing but a burden, an intrusion, a source of pain. In the past, his worry had been how to firmly hold onto Camila's heart. Now, his worry was how to completely free himself from her influence and her suffocating control. He knew that blocking and deleting her would change nothing. Camila had power. She had money. Getting a new number was effortless. It was impossible for him to have no intersection with her forever. William stood by the window, thinking for a long time. First, he replied to Misty, telling her he was fine, that he had deliberately thrown the competition. Then, he re-added Camila on WeChat. Book the fastest flight from the US back to a city for me. We should meet and talk things through clearly. He waited. On the other side, the status remained typing. Several minutes passed. In the end, Camila replied with only one word. Okay. Immediately afterward, she sent a screenshot. She had chartered an entire private jet to bring him back. William didn't overthink it. His mind was fixed on one thing. When they met, he would make everything clear once and for all. His path was simple now. He wanted to rely on himself, to study properly, to graduate, to become a doctor. Whether he returned to a city, stayed in the United States, or went anywhere else in the world, he had too many things left undone, too many landscapes left unseen. He would not spend another ounce of his energy on a woman who belonged to his past. Even if he had once loved her, the William of today felt no attachment, no lingering affection, for Camila at all. Chapter 25. Camila had arrived at the airport long before the plane landed. When her assistant informed her that Robert had somehow obtained William's exam paper and practical operation video from the forum competition, and had even published them on a highly authoritative medical forum, she felt as if all the blood in her body had rushed violently to her head. Even the hand holding her phone trembled uncontrollably. What should she do? How had she managed to ruin everything again? No matter why William had handed in a blank paper or deliberately given up the award, maybe he had just been angry with her. Maybe. Camila couldn't even reason it out anymore. She kept checking her phone over and over. hoping for a new message from him. There was none. President Lin, you're not allowed to enter the taxiway area to wait. Please remain at the passenger pickup point. The airport ground staff had already stopped her at least 3 times that night. After being turned away once more, Camila could only retreat to her original spot and continue counting every passing second. The plane landed close to 3 in the morning, yet Camila felt no trace of sleepiness. Even at that hour, the airport was still crowded. At last, amid the flow of passengers, she spotted William. He wasn't carrying any luggage, just a small carry-on bag. It seemed he had no intention of staying long. In less than a year, William looked like a completely different person. He used to appear drained, pale, perpetually tired. Now, even in the simplest casual clothes, he looked bright and full of vitality. He looked up and saw her too, but Camila suddenly didn't dare to step forward. Stiffly, she lifted her hand and gave a small wave. Forcing a faint smile, she shaped the words "long time no see" with her lips. She thought she had made a sound, but it was so soft that he probably couldn't hear it. As William pushed through the crowd and walked toward her with a restrained expression, she felt as if the entire world had narrowed down to just the two of them. She tentatively opened her arms, wanting to hug him, but William stopped about a meter away. Camila let out a self-mocking smile and awkwardly lowered her arms. She led him out of the airport and into her business vehicle. The driver in the front seat didn't turn around. He glanced at the rearview mirror and asked carefully, "President Lin, where are we headed?" For a moment, Camila panicked. She didn't know where to go. After thinking for a long while, she finally gave an answer. "Go home." The driver looked at the rearview mirror again. There was a flicker of surprise in his eyes. He seemed about to ask which home, but when he saw William, he immediately understood. He nodded slightly and started the car. William spoke first. "Camila, there's no need." Camila looked up and met his clear eyes. There was barely any visible emotion in them. "Take me back to my own place. It's about 30 minutes. That's enough time for us to talk." In an instant, the light in Camila's eyes dimmed. She waved her hand weakly, signaling the driver to follow William's instruction. Once the car merged smoothly onto the highway, William finally spoke again. "Camila, you know I've already made myself clear. I refused you. Why are you still trying to involve yourself in my life?" Her heart skipped violently at his words. Panic spread across her face. She parted her lips slightly, but she had no idea how to answer him. Chapter 26, The Forum Incident. "I'm sorry." The words came out one by one from Camila's throat. William turned his head to look at her. The cold arrogance she once carried was long gone. In its place was something heavy, an unmistakable sadness and pain. "I don't need your power to do anything for me. If there's something I want, I'll fight for it myself." William's voice was steady, without much rise or fall. It truly sounded like he was simply here to clarify things. 3 years ago, when I married you, I loved you, I wanted you, so I gave. I fought for your love. 3 years later, when I divorced you, I no longer needed your love, so I won't do anything more for that relationship. That's my choice now. It has nothing to do with whether you love me at this moment. Camila, do you know what I dislike most about you? William suddenly looked straight at her. Camila froze, her lips slightly parted, unsure how to respond. "What I dislike most is your self-centeredness. For the past 3 years, you lived in your own world. Stuck in the moment Robert left. No matter how hard I tried, you never saw me. And 3 years later, you're still selfish. So selfish that you're trying to keep me, someone who wants freedom, bound to your side. What I want most is freedom, but because of your selfishness, you're trying to take that away. This forum competition, I wanted to win, but I didn't want to win like that. Because of your selfishness, I lost an award that should have been mine. Because of your selfishness, I've been judged and suspected by the entire medical field. Maybe you can suppress them for now, but what about later? You should be with Robert. At your core, you're both selfish. Your obsession with getting me back right now, it's just another form of selfishness. You want me back because you want it. You never asked me if I was willing, if I could, if I even needed it." Every word struck Camila like a blow. The love she believed she carried, the regret, the devotion, were stripped bare in that moment. The illusion of love she had wrapped around herself unraveled too quickly. For the first time, she wavered. Did she truly love William? Or was it just her own stubbornness and pride? "William, I'm sorry. The forum, it was my fault." Camila lowered her head and spoke slowly, word by word. She didn't try to stop him. She had no justification left to do so. The old Chan family residence came into view. Half an hour of conversation. It wasn't long, yet it wasn't short either. The car stopped by the roadside. William unfastened his seatbelt and moved to get out. Suddenly, Camila threw herself into his arms. She held him like a precious treasure, arms locked tightly around his waist, greedily breathing in the familiar scent at his neck. "Can you be the attending doctor for my selective mutism? Can we start over? Give me one more chance to be with you again." She said both sentences clearly. William placed his hands on her shoulders and slowly pushed her away. Camila did not dare resist. William, can I contact you again? She gripped the car door tightly and forced out the question. William had almost reached the front gate of his home. At her voice, he paused. He turned around. The eastern sky was already beginning to pale with the first hint of dawn. Morning was approaching, and the faint light seemed to lift his mood with it. Camila, don't contact me again.